Alaikum, boys. So here we are with chapter three, and again, like I said, I'm really enjoying this book. Um, where we left off last, chapter two, Yusuf is getting ready to send Nur al-Din's army to Egypt, and Yusuf is working in the office, and he just counts the swords and the shields and all the things that the soldiers need, but he himself is not a soldier, and all he really wants is to be a soldier in Nur al-Din's army. So let's see what happens, okay? Chapter 3. The Fight for Egypt. What are you doing, Yusuf? Why aren't you ready to go? Shirkuh's face was red and angry. Yusuf jumped up when his uncle came into his office in the castle of Aleppo. Why, uncle, do you want me on the campaign? You said nothing about me coming, so I thought that you wanted me to stay here to take care of things. Stupid boy! You know everything about my soldiers now. I need you to make sure that they have everything they need. Go! We leave tomorrow at first light. It didn't take long for Yusuf to find his sword, a few clothes, and his holy Quran, and then to get his horse ready. At last he was one of Nur al-Din's soldiers, and not just an office boy for his uncle. If I do well in Egypt, perhaps one day I can be in the army that will take back the holy places, he thought. Men, Shirkuh called, to take our enemies by surprise, we must move quickly. The journey will be very difficult, but never forget that you're the best soldiers in Syria. We'll do good work for Nur al-Din in Egypt, and then the people and the gold of that rich country will help us to fight the Franks in the Holy Land. There was a great shout from the men. Then they all jumped on their horses and rode out through the castle gates. While he followed the general and his men, Yusuf thought, no one will ever see me afraid. I'll do my very best, and with God's help, my uncle, my father, and Nur al-Din will see that I have done well. The road was long and hard, but Yusuf worked without stopping to help Shirkuh get the army safely to Egypt. It was important that all the men, their weapons, and their horses were ready to fight once they arrived. Yusuf enjoyed the campaign. Best of all was fighting at Shirkuh's side, riding with the Syrian army against King Amalric and his Frankish knights, and against the Egyptian enemies of Vizier Shawar. Yusuf watched and learned while his uncle won quickly with a few short, well-fought battles. Boys, a knight is a soldier for the Europeans, and you've seen them in history. You know, they're covered in metal, and they usually fight like this. A nephew, you guys know, is the son of your brother or your sister. And a march, you guys know very well what a march is. We do it all the time in the hallways, right? With the help of the Syrians, Shawar was soon the strongest man in Egypt once again. But he wanted to be strong without the help of Nur al-Din's army, and he did not want to pay Nur al-Din the gold that he promised him before. Shawar decided to talk to the Franks. I don't like General Shirkuh and the Syrians. They want to get their hands on Egypt, so I want your knights to push him and his army out of the country. If you do what I ask, I'll give you the money that I promised Nur al-Din. So now Shawar, who was the governor of Egypt at the time, he's made a side deal now, and the side deal is with the Frankish people. So he's going to betray Shirkuh and their army. The Frankish generals agreed to help Shawar, and they battled against Shirkuh and his soldiers and pushed them out of Egypt. The Syrians fought bravely, but in the end they had to go back to Aleppo with nothing to show for their hard work. Nur al-Din was very angry. He thought that the campaign was a bad use of time, money, horses, and men. He didn't want his army to go to Egypt ever again. Shirkuh was angry too. Don't worry, Yusuf, he said to his nephew. Shawar will never win against me. Just wait. Nur al-Din doesn't want more fighting now, but when he sees how Al-Malrik and the Franks get rich in Egypt with Shawar's help, he'll send us again. And then we'll make that criminal Shawar sorry that he was ever born. Egypt in 1167, so it's a few years after. Okay, the old general was right. 3 years later, Yusuf, now 29, was marching beside his uncle at the head of the Syrian army. Why aren't we taking the same road to Egypt as last time, General? Asked Yusuf. Shawar and the Franks know that we're coming. We must travel quickly and secretly. My hope is to surprise them by taking the road down to the Dead Sea and then traveling through the Sinai Desert. We'll get into the country by the back door while our enemies are looking for us through the front windows. But uncle, won't it be terrible for the men? Yes, but my soldiers are brave, and they want to win against Shawar and his Frankish friends. They'll do it. Guys, have you noticed how even the way that Shirkuh is talking to Yusuf now is very different? And I think what this is because Yusuf has spent so many years now in the army, 3 years now. So it's made General Shirkuh respect his nephew a little bit more. They crossed the hot, dry land and near Suez. There was a deadly desert storm that very nearly killed them all. Men and horses were ill or died. But Yusuf spoke to the soldiers to help them go on bravely. Nur al-Din needs you to teach Shawar that he can't break his promises to Syrians and stay out of danger. Under Shirkuh, we'll have a great victory in Egypt, and then he'll give rich presents for the bravest. Finally they arrived. The men were very weak, and Shirkuh decided that they weren't ready to fight against the large armies of Vizier Shawar and King Amalric. He stopped his soldiers at Giza, on the other side of the river from Cairo. We'll wait and see what they do. I know that Shawar's in trouble. Most Egyptians don't like it that he's friendly with the Franks. Everyone hates it when he gives Egyptian money to Amalric because they know that he uses it to keep the Franks fighting in the Holy Land. No Muslim wants this. Before long, all the Egyptians will fight for us. At last, early one spring morning, Yusuf ran to his uncle. Sir, the enemy's coming. The old general looked at his nephew. Today, I want you to do some real fighting, Yusuf. Take the group of soldiers in the middle of the army. Make the Frankish knights think that you and your men are weak and afraid. Turn and run. They will follow you with the hope of killing many of you, but I'll take the rest of our army around them. Then you'll surprise them when you turn around and fight. Yusuf was worried. Will I do well? Will the men follow me and do what I ask? But there were no problems. The plan worked. King Amalric was lucky to get away safely, but Syrian swords and arrows killed many of his knights. It was a great victory for Nur al-Din's men, but Shirkuh knew that he was not safe. Yusuf, you're a good soldier, and one day I know you'll be a great general. But we can't stop now. Take the men to Alexandria, where we have friends. I'll get the country people to help me make trouble for Shawar and the Franks here. I'll come and help you when I'm finished. When I've finished, sorry. It was a long time before Yusuf and his men saw the general again. For months, Yusuf and his small army fought to keep Alexandria safe from the Franks. The enemy came by land and by sea. No food or help could come into the town from outside, and siege engines sent stones and dead animals over the city walls. Boys, um, do you guys know what you guys know? We talked about what a siege is, right? Okay, and you know, so basically what they've done is they besieged the city, right? Um, and so they besieged the city, and then they were sending over animals and these things, right? Like anytime an animal died, they would throw it over and try to hit the armies. Okay, the siege engine is something that armies use, and you can see it looks like over here, like it's like a catapult. This thing, okay? They used in the past to break down walls or castles of towns. Okay, all right. Siege engines sent stones and dead animals over the city walls. This made life terrible for the people and the soldiers inside the city. Many were ill, all were hungry, and many died. But Yusuf kept his men fighting. while he worked as hard as possible to make the lives of the people of Alexandria easier. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's because you're our friends that you're in trouble now. But I know that my uncle will come soon, and then the siege will be over." Okay, so Yusuf is inside the city with the Alexandrian people who are friendly with him, and they're throwing dead animals over and all this thing. And one of the problem with dead animals are they bring in diseases, so it's making people sick, right? So it's a big issue. They can't even go outside to get food or anything from their city. And Qatar is in a similar situation, right? Where we have the Hisar going on, so that's a siege, and that's exactly what's happening here in Alexandria. Until he arrives, be strong and brave. I promise that the enemy won't take the town while we're here, and my men and I will do all that we can to keep you safe." Yusuf was right. At last his uncle came with his new army and ended the siege. The town was out of danger, but the war wasn't over yet, and there was a lot of work to do to make the people of Alexandria truly safe. Yusuf went to talk to the Franks to try to find ways to help the sick and wounded Muslims in the town. "Will the Franks understand that it's wrong to fight old men, women, and children?" he worried. "I must remember all that I learned from Nur al-Din about talking to angry and difficult people. If I'm wise and careful, God will help me." After the long siege, Amalric's men already knew that Yusuf was a good soldier. While he explained the problems of the people of Alexandria, the Franks learned that he was a good man, too. Humphrey of Toron, an important knight, said, "General Shirkuh's nephew Yusuf is more truly chivalrous than any of us. I wish that we worried as much as he does about those that are too weak or sick to fight. I'd like to make him a knight, even if he is a Muslim." It was from this time that people in Europe began to hear how kind and generous Yusuf was. So he's so nice and so polite that even the people he's fighting with, they say, "MashaAllah, he has a good character." Chivalrous, guys, it means having ikhlaq, okay? Ikhlaq, okay, very good. While Yusuf tried to make things better in Alexandria, Wazir Shawar gave the Syrians gold to make them leave Egypt. But Shirkuh was still angry. He wanted to win the war, and he wanted the Franks out of the country. Most of all, he wanted Shawar out of Cairo, and he thought that most Egyptians wanted this too. But Yusuf, after his terrible time in Alexandria, was happy to march back home. That was chapter 3. There is a small Google quiz we have, and I've attached a link as well. Please go ahead and complete the Google quiz, and we'll get ready for chapter 4 tomorrow. Okay? All right, take care.